What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Unplayable. Today, we're going to talk about some more Star Wars Unlimited spoilers, and we've got quite a few. We're getting pretty close to the end here, I think, too.
Yeah,
Probably,
but which is nuts.
75% of the set revealed?
Yeah. But even that's going to be like at least a spoiler a day, maybe more.
Yeah, pretty wild.
If it's March 1st, yeah.
Wow.
But I'm caffeinated. I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
I'm still currently caffeinating, so we'll see how this goes. All right. The first card we've got is Inferno Four. It's a 2-cost space unit. It's blue villain. It's a 2/3 Imperial vehicle fighter. When played and when defeated, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put any number of them on the bottom of your deck, and the rest on top in any order. What do you think?
Well, obviously, I know the answer to this, but Mike, can you tell all the other people where the heck this TIE fighter is from?
This is from the same place that Iden and Del Mico are from, so that's why you're so familiar with them.
Of course it is.
The ship behind the Inferno Four, I believe, is called the Corvus, and that is Iden's like Devastator. Is that what it's called? Devastator? I don't remember.
Isn't that a Raider?
Yeah, Raider. That's what it is. Yeah. Devastator is the name of another ship. Yeah. Again, not fully caffeinated, but yeah, I think this is a sick card. Do you think any different?
No, I mean for blue villain right now, it would be hard to justify not playing this.
Yeah.
Just coming in 1 cost higher than a TIE fighter, you get 2 extra health and a little bit of a scry ability on play and defeat, which is pretty sweet. But I mean, playing this first round feels pretty solid. I think it's great.
Yeah, definitely leans more control, being able to look at the top of your deck and try to find the answers that you're looking for, and or whatever you need at the moment. It kind of lets you play a little bit more toolboxy, which is pretty cool. I would compare this to the Arc 170, same color, just villain instead of hero. Mm-hmm. You get this really cool sort of card selection ability rather than raid 1, and I don't even know which one is better. I kind of feel like this is better. I don't know.
I think the Arc's better, but
this is unique though, so you can't have more than one of these out at a time.
Oh, you're right. I did not consider that. Because I have been wondering about like a deck that leans completely into space. Mm-hmm. I watched one gameplay where they were running the outmaneuver and going all in on space to just exhaust the ground. I don't think it'll work, but I was thinking this wasn't unique, so that's a good point.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next card. We've got Jawa Scavenger. It's a 1-cost ground unit. It's a 2/1 fringe Jawa. It's yellow, just yellow, and it has Saboteur.
I think this is a great draft card.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much to say about this card. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Like when is it better to play 2 1-cost cards on the first turn rather than 1 2-cost card? It sometimes is, but this just kind of just dies to literally anything.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're playing Boba Fett and in draft and you really need some 1-cost cards to be able to capitalize off of his ability, this will find a spot there. I have a hard time believing this will go in any constructed deck.
I don't think so, unless we're seeing a lot of this like fringe keyword, or not keyword. What's that?
Oh, sure. The trait.
Yeah, fringe trait. Because like right now, it just doesn't. It doesn't work.
Yeah, there's no synergy with it yet.
So this directly competes with Greedo at that slot. I don't think you would ever run Greedo in this.
Probably not. Greedo's definitely.
In my head, I'm thinking like, okay, if like Luke takes over the meta and there's shields everywhere.
Mm-hmm. But this doesn't even kill anything. Like,
yeah, it removes shields and does some damage. I don't know. I'm trying to convince myself it's fine in a sideboard, and it's not. I don't even think it's a sideboard.
It should be a 3/1 because there's 3 Jawas, and then I'd like it better.
Yeah, or even if it was a 2/2, like I don't know, but maybe that's too good.
Yeah, maybe. Is it? It might be. I don't know. All right. Let's move on to the Vanguard Ace. It's a 2-cost space unit. It is hero and yellow, and it's a 1/1 New Republic vehicle fighter. When played, for each other card you played this phase, give an experience token to this unit. It's a weird one.
Yeah. Ask me about this in like a year and a half.
Yeah, basically.
It's like, can we get a bunch of 0 cost or 1 cost events Because right now, I just don't ever see this being more than like a 2/2.
Yeah, I mean, like to get real value, it has to be a 2-cost 3/3. I think a 2-cost 2/2 is not good enough. So you have to have played at least 2 other cards before you play this for it to like be valuable. And at that point in the game where you can play more than 3 cards, are you wanting to play this? Maybe some combo deck exists where you get to play cards and bounce cards and like back to your own hand and like do some weird stuff. And then this comes out and it's a 4/4 or a 5/5 for 2. And that could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I agree with you. Let's wait to truly evaluate this card. I think right now it's not going to be very useful. It also like really hurts it that it has the New Republic tag instead of the Rebel trait.
Oh, true. Yeah.
There's no New Republic synergies so far.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if this was Rebel, if that would change our evaluation on this, but for
marginally,
now,
I guess, right? Because then at least you could wing leader it or fleet lieutenant or whatever. But yeah, at the moment, I think that this definitely seems like a card for the future.
Yep.
All right, next up, we've got a leader. We've got Cassian Andor, dedicated to the rebellion. He is a red hero with action, pay 1 and exhaust. If you dealt 3 or more damage to an enemy base this phase, draw a card. And then if you control 6 or more resources, deploy this leader. And on the unit side, he has Saboteur and is a 4/6. And when you deal damage to an enemy base, you may draw a card. Use this ability only once each round.
Yeah, how do we evaluate Cassian?
Honestly, I don't know. He's probably the hardest leader for me to evaluate that we've seen so far. I think I have some mixed feelings about him. I think the ability is really cool. I think drawing cards is generally good, but the condition that you have to meet to draw a card seems sort of counterintuitive to like the type of deck that you would think that he would go in. So I don't think he's super aggressive because he flips on 6 resources, which is like definitely later than the more aggressive leaders. And in order to gain a card from his ability, you have to spend a resource on that card draw rather than on, playing more threats. So it's sort of like, to me, looks like it wants to do 2 things. It wants to gain you card advantage through its ability, but the condition requires you to be hitting your opponent's base. So it's like a control ability with an aggro condition. And it just seems kind of awkward to me.
Yeah, I'm in my head, I'm trying to do the math of like, okay, turn 2, you've got a unit on the board, you want to do damage, and it's got to be 3. A lot of those units that you play,
A-wing probably.
Yeah, it has to be one of those. If it's not one of those, like you've got to like fleet lieutenant or something to like boost its attack. But then you spent all 3 resources on fleet lieutenant, so then you can't draw.
Yeah.
So I guess Sabine or A-wing is probably the move. Even Greedo.
But then like you're committing then to draw. Well, I mean, you're not committing, but if you use this ability, then you're only playing another 2-cost card on turn 2 rather than a 3-cost card on turn 2.
Yeah, and then you're behind curve.
Yeah, you're ahead on card advantage. You're behind on curve, but you're going face instead of controlling the board. So it just, I don't know. It seems weird. I haven't played it yet though. So
I haven't either. So maybe we need to give it a try. I do think
I did play against Jim, who was playing Cassian, and it wasn't super convincing.
Yeah, I think his deployed side is interesting with Saboteur on such a big body.
Yeah,
we're seeing a little bit more Saboteur that gives me, again, just if it gets super control heavy out there and shields everywhere and Sentinel everywhere, there are some answers in the card.
Yeah, it has value. I think we talked about this on our the second episode of our Star Wars Unlimited podcast, which if you're listening and you have not heard that we are doing that, check it out. And we talked about that he can just flip and kill Iden right away, which is a pretty cool interaction. So maybe if Iden becomes super popular, Cassian becomes popular just as a counter to Iden.
Yeah, they flip at the same turn. I wish he flipped at 5. It's just, man, it's going to be so hard to justify running Cassian over Sabine.
Yeah, it is. I completely agree. That's why I sort of feel like they're completely different decks. Like, I don't think that you can just put Cassian in like the same shell that Sabine would go in, and it would just be a good deck, because
which is good that they designed it that way.
It plays so differently. I don't really like his stats as a like. I don't quite like any of the 6-cost 4/6 leaders. It feels like you want to be a little bit better on the stats when you have Leia, who's basically a 4/6 on 5, and then you have Boba, who's a 4/7 on 5. Luke is a 4/7. I mean, I think they're putting a lot of weight into the card draw, like in mathing out what his stats were, and I don't think it's like I'd rather he have more stats and no card draw.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But maybe in the future, or I mean, maybe even in set 1, like there's some kind of control deck that this works in somehow. I don't know. I don't see it. I think if you're playing control, like you want to be controlling the board, not going face for 3.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, we got to try it.
All right. Next up, we've got Rogue Squadron Skirmisher. It is a 6-cost ground unit. It's green hero, which is music to David's ears. And it is a 4/6 rebel vehicle speeder with ambush. And when played, return a unit that costs 2 or less from your discard pile to your hand.
All right. So when this was first spoiled, I think we were actively recording our podcast. Yeah. So we gave some initial reactions. I think I've warmed up to this a little bit, but again, I have not had the opportunity to try it. The benefit of doing that 12 days of Christmas series was I was trying stuff all the time. So now I have to figure out what to do for January. But I guess I still think 6 is a lot. Ambushing at 4 damage is kind of typical. We've seen that with Bosk. We've seen that with Callus. So, but those come at 5.
What? It costs 2 more or it costs 1 more than either of those?
Yes. Yeah. This costs 1 more. And then Callus is a 4/4. Bosk is a 4/5. This is a 4/6 with the when played ability to return a unit that costs 2 or less, which is most of the time going to be a Battlefield Marine is what it's going to end up being. Probably.
Yeah. Battlefield Marine, A-Wing.
Yeah. There's some good options within there. So I don't know. I don't think it's amazing. I think it's better than I gave it credit for when I first saw it. It has the Rebel tag.
It does. The 2-cost Leia is another really good card to pull from your discard pile with this. I mean, this looks like it slots into some kind of control or mid-range deck that wants to be interacting with your opponent's board, and this gains you card advantage at the same time. So like this is a better card advantage card, in my opinion, than Cassian even, because it does what you want to do in that type of strategy, I think, which is take out one of your opponent's units and gain some card advantage by returning a card from your discard pile to your hand so that you have more threats. So yeah, I mean, I like this card. I don't know exactly like where it fits and where it goes. 6 is kind of expensive for a 4/6. Like what are the other good 6-cost cards? I feel like the 6-cost cards in this game are
There's not a lot
weaker, right? There's like Obi-Wan, who is also a 4/6, but he's Sentinel.
Yeah, you got ATST at
ATST is a 6/7, right?
Yes,
that's pretty big compared to a 4/6.
No ambush, but does have overwhelm.
Yeah, well, no ambush unless you're playing Energy Conversation Lab. So yeah, it's an interesting point in the cost curve. I do like this card. I want to mess around with it more. Also, the art's sick. All right.
Yeah.
We're moving on to Zeb Orrelios. He is a 5-cost ground unit, red hero. It's a 5/5 Rebel Spectre. When this unit completes an attack, if the defender was defeated, you may deal 4 damage to a ground unit. He's
more
spicy.
Specters.
Yeah, more Spectres for Hera. That's fine. I mean, you play Hera with red, so you get Sabine and Zeb, and then like you didn't need her ability at all anyway. But I mean, I do like just the ability to get all the Spectres together. That is definitely cool, but maybe not the most powerful. But he seems pretty good, right?
Yeah, I like Zeb a lot. The first thing I said is still the main thing. I think if you play this guy with the Energy Conversation Lab, you're just gonna be happy. Yeah. Ambush it in. They didn't see it coming. They lost 2 units.
Yeah, you could 3-for-1 your opponent with this.
Yeah, for sure. So I like that. The Rebel tag obviously helps because you could drop Dodonna on 4 and then this on 5. So if you're dropping this, then you've got a 6/6.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
some people were saying ambushing it. How good is it?
My gut is that it's still solid. It's just it's in takedown range, which hurts because then you're technically paying more than your opponent is if they're playing takedown. But takedown is just going to be great. Force choke is another one that, yeah, I don't know if you're playing against blue or villain red, he feels a little risky. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the ability is powerful. It's the type of card that is, it's good when it sticks, or if you can ambush it in, of course. So I think in certain decks this will be really good, but I don't know if this goes into like Sabine, where you don't really care as much about his ability and defeating your opponent's units. You just want to go face. So it is cool though to see more red cards like this that are a bit more like mid-range control-y, leaning towards that side of things. Aggression as a color is so interesting to me because they've mentioned that it's both aggro and control. It represents like both of those like super opposed deck archetypes. So looking at red cards is always really interesting and trying to evaluate like where they designed them to fit.
Yeah. I think he could be interesting with Leia because if you're able to attack, if this sticks on the board and you're able to attack with 2 rebels, I mean, you could clear, I don't know, it could help him have more effect if there's like a bunch of shields or something.
Sure. Yeah. Or, I mean, you can attack with this, kill something, soften something else up so that your second rebel unit can attack into the thing that is softened up, basically.
Yeah.
So that's definitely cool. All right.
I'm definitely going to be running the mono green Hera deck, and just to prove to you guys that it's going to be a great deck.
Go for it. All right. Next up, we've got Big Daddy Vader himself. Vader is a 7-cost ground unit, green villain, 5/7, Force, Imperial, Sith, ambush, and when played, search the top 10 cards of your deck for any number of villain units with combined cost 3 or less, and play each of them for free.
So
it's got one of the best words that you can put on a card, which is free.
I was looking, I was like, yeah, legendary.
They don't have to be in aspect.
Oh my gosh.
They just have to be villain.
Wait a second. What?
So I don't know.
With combined cost 3 or less.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I don't
need a minute.
I don't know if you like play towards that, but it's interesting at least, right?
What? That just blew my mind. What's the craziest thing you could do with that?
I mean, I like, obviously, like if you're just trying to get power onto the board, you can do 3 Death Star Stormtroopers and add 9 power to the board.
So you just throw them in the deck, even if it's a green, blue, or green, yellow, or whatever.
Maybe. You just resource them otherwise.
It feels really bad if you never get to 7. Yeah. Oh gosh, that's wild.
So I don't know. I just call that out because there is the potential for cool stuff that you can do with it. I mean, I think like Mahdi plus a 1 cost could be pretty interesting too. If you can, if you also have a way to damage Mahdi or something like that.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's definitely fun. I mean, there's a bunch of high impact cards that are cheap. Even a cell block guard can be really good, right?
Yeah.
Like you're paying 7 for 10 worth of resources regardless, and you get a 5/7 ambush and a 3/3 sentinel.
And if you pull Veers out, then you're
immediately a
6/8. Yeah.
6/8.
How does it work with Snowtrooper Lieutenant? Does that work?
I don't think so. I think the ambush happens before the other unit enters play, I think, or they're separate things. So if you had another unit, like if you had a different unit, you could ambush in with Vader and you had a different ready unit. You could bring in the Snowtrooper and attack with your other ready unit. With
but you could, because ambush, I think technically ambush says ready and.
Yeah, it's like
it's not that
attack. It's not like ready and it can attack whatever like this action.
I love this. I mean, he's gonna hit, and he fits in that green villain aspect. I mean, being able to super laser tech. I mean, you're gonna if you're running green villain, you are going to hit 7 resources. Like I really think it's of all of the different aspects, that's the one that you're going to reliably hit 7 potentially. Sure. So I think you're going to see a lot of Vader. I love this, and gosh, that's a beautiful card.
Yeah, the art is amazing. It feels legendary. It feels like Vader. This is definitely going into my all Stormtroopers deck. He's not a Stormtrooper himself, but he's commanding the First Legion, so it just makes sense, and I love it.
So good.
I also I want this art on everything. It's so good.
That's pretty dope.
It's
Someone
so good.
photoshopped Mike's face into Vader's body.
All right. We're moving on to Moment of Peace. It's a 1-cost blue event. Give a shield token to a unit. Very simple.
Yoda's just eating some soup.
Yep. The soup is shielding him.
It's a common. So I think in limited, this is going to be valuable because then you might be able to trade some or not trade. You'll be able to get board advantage because of this. In constructed, I don't know that it makes the cut, but we haven't really seen any Boba blue. It's always been like Boba yellow, Boba red, Boba green. I've not seen any Boba blue. And I was thinking Boba blue. I feel like I'm not saying words, but to be able to get that resource and then use that one resource to shield something, then it's even easier for you to trigger Boba's ability on future when you're killing units and you're not getting rid, your units aren't dying. So that was the one constructed idea I had. I was like, I wonder how that could fit.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I have to try that. I also sort of have a hard time seeing like what deck actually wants this because it's simple. It costs 1, but is it worth a card? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it's worth a card if you get to use it to take out one of your opponent's units without you dying, your unit dying. So, but it requires some setup and it's like, pretty easy to see coming. Worst case scenario is you Moment of Peace your card and then your opponent just plays takedown or something.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to Echo Base Defender. It's a 3-cost ground unit, green hero, 4 power, 3 health, Rebel Trooper, and Sentinel.
Oh, baby.
You like this one.
Yeah, well, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I wouldn't say I'm like the Battlefield Marine coming in at 2 as a 3/3. I mean, I think everybody was like, this is a great card.
Yeah.
It's just the stats are a little bit above what is average for a first turn play, and it's very valuable. So this coming in at 3 still only has 3 health, like the Battlefield Marine, but with 4 power, which is a little bit higher than we've seen like Cell Block Guard. It's a little bit the inverse of the Emperor's Royal Guard. That's a 3/4 with Sentinel if there's an official. And I really like the Emperor's Royal Guard, but I think to your credit, you said this, but you wish its stats were flipped, and I think I agree with that too.
Yeah, I think it's playable. I would already play Cell Block Guard in some decks, and this is just better than Cell Block Guard. But I would much rather it be a 3/4 because then you have a higher chance of being able to take 2 hits rather than just 1. And the 4 attack is like only sometimes better than the 3 attack at the point in time at which you want to actually play this. But there are some scenarios where it is like clearly better. It's good at attacking Fifth Brother. It's not very good at taking a hit against Fifth Brother, but
I don't know. It kind of is because he only swings for 2.
Well, if he uses his ability when he attacks, then they both die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing, again, I think this has going for it is it is Rebel and it is Trooper.
Yeah.
So if this is stick on the board, if you could wing leader this to turn it into a 6/5.
Definitely better.
Fleet Lieutenant drops the next turn. It's hitting for 6. In some ways, it's like it's both a Sentinel and it's like a pretty aggressive unit too. If you leave this alone, it's smacking your base. I mean, this hits for 4. The Rogue Squadron Skirmisher that Snowspeeder hits for 4.
Right.
It's twice as expensive.
Yeah.
So I think for that alone, I think this. I mean, obviously there's no ambush, but I don't know. I think this. I do think this makes it into most green hero shells.
I think it has value. I'm not super confident that is necessarily true, but I think I would put this in. I would at least put this in the sideboard. This would make it into the 60 cards of almost any green hero deck that I would build, I think.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Seventh Sister, a 5-cost ground unit, red villain. It's a 3/6 Force Imperial Inquisitor, Saboteur, and when this unit deals combat damage to an opponent's base, you may deal 3 damage to a ground unit that opponent controls. Pretty spicy.
I love it.
Yeah, this is a cool card.
Yeah. I mean, what's not to like? You got 6 health, which is great.
Yeah.
At first glance, if you just stop at the 3, you're like, man, I'm paying 5 for just something that hits for 3. But then you realize, oh, it's Saboteur. You ignore the Sentinels. And so when you do hit the base, you're doing 3 damage to a ground unit. that isn't dealing damage back. So you're really hitting for 6, which is amazing.
You can do some really nasty stuff with Grand Inquisitor too with this, which I mean, I love that the Inquisitors all work with Grand Inquisitor. I think that's super cool. Very thematic, makes a lot of sense. But if you play this on your 5 resources, you make it to 6 resources. If this is still around, you get to hit your opponent with it and deal 3 damage to one of their things. Then ready it with Grand Inquisitor. And well, I mean, you could even do it more than that. So on turn 5 or turn 4, when you play this, you can ready it immediately with Grand Inquisitor, hit your opponent's base for 3, kill one of their units that only has 3 health left. Then on your next turn, do it again, but twice, because you get to attack with it just because it's ready at the beginning of the turn. Then you flip Grand Inquisitor and then do it again. So you could do this, 4 times by the end of turn 5?
Yep.
Which is pretty sick.
That's a lot.
I mean, it's probably dead somewhere between those actions, but just the idea that it's possible. Like if your opponent's only playing in space,
you know what else I thought?
Unit. Sorry, never mind.
Yeah, ground unit.
That's less exciting, but it's still exciting.
So this also, because she only has 3 power, this triggers some weird stuff. Like Keep Fighting was an event that we weren't crazy about, but ready a unit with 3 or less power. That feels super good. What was the other one? Oh, Aggression, like the double red Aggression card. I mean, ready. One of the options is ready a unit with 3 or less power, and it could do 4 to a unit. So
yeah, something up to
I'd be lying if my brain didn't start going, ooh, like okay, the mono red Grand Inquisitor thing, because we're about to talk about another one that could slot in, but it's interesting.
I've been messing around a lot with Grand Inquisitor with blue, and it's super fun and super explosive. This just fits perfectly right into any Grand Inquisitor deck, I think.
Yep.
He's like slowly getting the tools to be able to compete with the other leaders, and it's very fun. All right. Well, speaking of the other card, we've got Force Throw, which is a 1-cost event. It's red. Choose a player. That player discards a card from their hand. Then if you control a force unit, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the cost of the discarded card.
Yeah, the first time I read this, I thought it was a random card, and I was like, that's going to be
better.
Like, so frustrating. So at least, if you play this on me, I get to choose what card I discard. So you're probably not doing more than 2 damage to a unit, but paying 1 for 2 damage, sometimes that's just enough. That's all you need. And you're discarding a card, assuming you've got the force unit, which isn't always a given. You don't always have a force unit out there, but
I think in some decks this is going to be really good, but I think it's going to be good in certain matchups.
Yeah,
where your opponent generally has higher costed cards, and they're making the choice between discarding like a 4-cost or a 6-cost rather than like a 1-cost or a 3-cost.
Yeah. I don't know. This has been one of the hardest ones to evaluate for me.
I think also like one thing to consider too. I think it's only good if you have a force unit. I think if you don't have a force unit in play, you don't play this.
I think you're right, because
you're discarding a card from your hand and spending a resource for your opponent to discard whatever their worst card is in their hand. And sometimes that'll make a difference, and sometimes like that will be good situationally. But I think if you aren't getting the value of the damage out of it as well, then I don't think it's nearly as good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Maybe if you're playing Bosk and he's on the board, you might play it without having a force unit, just because you get to deal 2 as well.
Yeah, I was thinking in Boba Red, because if you get that last resource at the end, to drop this with your extra resource, anything that costs 1, I'm thinking about Boba. And if you got Bosk out there, okay.
Yeah, very interesting card. Will be cool to see where this eventually fits. And we've got our last card. We've got Pirated Starfighter. It's a 2-cost yellow space unit. It's a 2/4 underworld vehicle fighter with raid 1. And when played, return a friendly non-leader unit to its owner's hand.
Yeah, great stats, obviously. A 2/4 with raid 1 that costs 2. If it stopped there, this would be in every yellow deck.
This would be the best 2-cost card in the game by far.
But yeah, the returning a friendly non-leader unit, I don't know. That's a pretty steep cost. So this is realistically at least a
3-cost.
At least a 3.
Sort of.
Yeah. Because it like, I'm thinking Greedo. Like you drop Greedo for, and then pull it back.
Yeah. You get to deal 3 damage with Greedo first in theory, which is cool.
Yeah. This
and
does
then play
not
it
get me
again.
excited.
Like if your line is like Greedo turn 1 with something else, and then turn 2 you like hit your opponent with Greedo, play this, bounce Greedo, and then play Greedo again.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad.
I think it's bad.
It feels like a combo card.
Yeah. It at some point we'll see the card, be like, oh, okay, like,
Yeah,
there's the goat.
right. Yeah. You need some pretty like spicy on like when played effects and or like like when played, when this leaves play, like that type of thing, or some other cards that are like, whenever you play a unit something happens, or whenever you play a certain type of unit something happens.
Which, what do we even? I mean, I'm like looking at some of the yellow stuff. I guess you have like the cartel spacer. You've got some,
Leia.
You can exhaust. You've got Bodhi Rook.
Bouncing Bodhi and playing Bodhi again is pretty cool.
Yeah,
or
but that's
Cantina Bouncer. That's kind of cool.
Resources.
Yeah, it's expensive for sure.
You're the ISB agent.
I mean, if you treat it like, technically you can waylay your own unit. This is a lot better than waylaying your own unit. If that is a play that you want to make ever.
There will be a combo deck that uses this. I can, yeah, pretty confident about that.
Yeah. I mean, I also don't like what if you're playing an aggressive deck and your first turn you're going into ground, your opponent then goes into ground, and you like juke them by going into space with this. Like you return the ground unit to your hand, you play this in space where your opponent isn't playing, and then you just resource it at the end of your turn and start going into space. Like, I don't know. I think it's sort of it's really interesting. I really like the concept of this card. I'm gonna mess around with this a lot because I just think it's fun. But
yeah, you would.
Time will tell if it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, and that's all the spoilers we got for today. We got
more to come.
We got through a lot of them. We've got not that many left. What is it? Okay, 187, and there's 252 cards, right?
Yep.
Get all the old get out the old calculator real quick.
65.
There. Oh, I divided by 187, and that is not what I wanted to do.
Yeah, other way.
65 cards left. Did you already say that while I was calculating it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Math.
And you're the one who does
big math guy. Big math guy. Yep.
That registered super late in my brain. Cool. All right. Well, we got 65 cards left and less than 65 days until the game comes out, or more than 65 days until the game comes out. More than 65 days.
No, March 1st. That's not 28 because February is only 28 days. So.
All right, Mr. Math Man, tell me how many days.
No, I can't. That was my one trick.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Bye.